Welcome in, everybody, whether you're on the East Coast, West Coast, or around the world. This is your Wednesday wrap-up. I'm here with my man, Herb. Sorry for the delay. A little bit of technical problems getting the show running. How you doing, man?
My bad. Folks, it was me. I spilled Coke on the machine, slowed the whole thing down. Bo, I sincerely apologize, man.
You know, if there was somebody to blame, I would like it. Unfortunately, it was just gremlins. And yeah, it was one of those that the video was choppy. So I'm like, oh, let me just, restart the machine. And then it was like, just kidding, update. And I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me.
Oh, that's what my phone does when I really don't want it to. All right, let me try and figure out where I'm going. Okay, update. Wait, no. I'm trying. Right.
Then all of a sudden it says optimizing 150 apps. I'm like, I don't even have that many on my phone.
Yes. Stop. Yeah, I've been there.
Oh, man. So there's definitely weird stuff that's happened over this last week. Might as well kick it off with some Daniel Jones action. And so he gets benched, right? Which happened last week. And okay, whatever. They're trying not to get him hurt. They're obviously moving on from him. Then you see him taking reps with the practice team because he got demoted to the fourth string quarterback, right? So now he's taking snaps with the practice squad as a safety, which is hilarious. And then they realized, hey, if he's doing that, he can still get hurt. And so they're just like, yeah, you can't do anything. He requests to be released, and they do. So, I mean, they were fine with getting absolutely nothing for him, which is interesting to me. But are they just handling things as poorly as possible? Or like, is that the goal here?
Yeah. It's basically like, they went into this season thinking, look, even if you play like you would have to play like at a Super Bowl level for us to keep you. What's up, Mom? What's up, Win? For us to keep you, right? And it was way below that. And at that point, yeah, you should have just had a conversation. There should have been practice squad demotions. There shouldn't have been forced. You know what I mean? It should have been like, look, here's what's going on. We're not keeping you at the end of this year. Okay. You're not going to be the quarterback anymore. What's the best way going forward? And then the release could have just happened there and it could have been mutual. You know what I mean? And I understand at the end, they still say it was mutual decision. But come on, you didn't have to try and embarrass the man on the way out. His play was embarrassing enough. So we didn't need any extra going with it, right? So to answer your direct question, yes, they're just handling things on this one situation as bad as possible.
Well, and then they go on to also not give Drew Lock the start, who's been the number 2 all year, because they don't want him to hit his incentives, right? So they're just trying to like hose Drew Lock out of the $3 million that his incentives might have hit.
Right. which is also is Lock is also signed for next year, or was this a 1-year deal that he did?
Yeah, I think it was a 1-year deal.
Okay. Because my question then was, if you don't get into that top 2, right? Let's say you're at 6. You're not going to trade up for a quarterback. You're probably not trading your quarterback of the future at 6, not in this draft class. So what are you doing?
Well, I agree with that last part. Like, what are they doing? I have no idea. Because there's only 2 quarterbacks that are first round picks, right? And the only reason I don't include Ewers in that is because he's just too injury prone.
Right.
Like maybe somebody takes flyer on at the end of the first round, but realistically, he's a day 2 guy. So you don't have to move anywhere to go get him. Right. But I mean, if you're going to get all of your quarterbacks out of the room, you kind of have to do something, right?
Right. I'm just thinking like with other holes that they have, and neither one of those top 2 being like, that guy, maybe they were. Maybe I'm wrong on Ward and Sanders, but they both have some warts. And I don't feel like if the Giants are 6 to 10, right, that they should put together a package to move up to 1 or 2 or even 3, Travis Hunter's going 1.
Well, the Giants are the number 2 overall pick right now, I think.
Okay. I was just saying, like, if something happens and you win a couple, you know what I mean?
Vito wins
back somehow, yes.
I don't think that's
all I was saying. You're basically putting all your stock in. We better lose all the rest of our games. Which, by the way, if it goes the way it's going and your team looks lifeless, Daboll is definitely gone. I'd even read a report that he had been fired, and then it was like, nah.
No. So weirdly, the owner said that everybody's coming back. This was last week, I think.
Right.
Said Daboll is our coach next year. They're sticking with the GM too, which is wild to me. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like Daboll not getting fired, you're like, okay. Like if you get him a different GM, because it's not like Daniel Jones was Daboll's guy, right? Like he inherited that pick.
That whole thing. Yeah.
So like I kind of get a little bit of a, grace there, I suppose. But the GM, I don't know how the GM survives this. Like he has assembled one of the worst teams in football.
Right.
So you would think that would work itself out naturally. But, from what the owner said, they're going to bring this band of misfits back next year, which if you're a Giants fan, you got to be disappointed about.
Yeah. It's basically like they're saying Daniel Jones is the reason why the team is terrible, and we would be fine if not for this one mistake. So we're just going to blame Daniel Jones, and everyone else is okay with this.
Like if that were true, why wouldn't you let Drew Lock start?
Right.
Because, I mean, is he an elite quarterback? No. Right. But can he win you games? Absolutely. Right. I mean, with the Seahawks, he beat the Eagles last year. I mean, he looked like they made him look like Joe Montana at the end of that game.
Right. Right. No, I agree.
But yeah, I mean, Drew Lock can go win you some games.
Yeah. Which is now what they're also doing is like, we definitely want to tank, like you were saying earlier. So that's why Lock isn't started. But it's just, I guess now it goes back to the original point. How badly can we handle one situation? Mm-hmm. It's got to be frustrating to watch. And then, I don't think they should have kept Saquon after all this, but it's got to hurt the fact that they drug out that whole thing. And then he gets on a good team and all of a sudden he's balling out. And they're like, why couldn't he do that for us? Well, because you guys are terrible.
and that's why I said, I don't know how the GM doesn't get fired.
Yeah.
Right. Not only have you assembled a terrible team, but you let what's going to be the rushing leader this year, probably, just walk out the door. And it's not like he got way more money to go somewhere else. He got the money that you could have gave him. So it's not like you were so strapped for cash. You're like, man, we wanted to keep you, but we just didn't have it. Because, I mean, that happens. That was not the case here. So that was just like, we are determined to be bad. Mission accomplished.
Yes. Very good. Which maybe that's why the GM is keeping his job, because he went in the office and said, look, I'm just trying to get us a really high draft pick. And the owner's like, well, you're doing an amazing job at being terrible.
Right.
Bravo.
Is that how we keep jobs now?
I guess so. I'm just start showing up to the Wednesday wrap up in a robe and chilling like this with a bottle of Jack Daniels in my hand.
I feel like the demo would change, but people'd still watch.
This is true. Have you seen the Wednesday wrap up? Yeah, it's terrible. Can't look away. That Herb guy. Bo refuses to fire him.
Yeah, Sonia, you're right. Them not paying Saquon and paying Jones was a huge misstep. Just about everybody didn't get that move when it happened.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody was just like, oh, Jones is that guy. I mean, he had a good season, but it was all predicated on the fact that Barkley was a stud that whole year.
Yep.
So,
and what did we say? We said on this show many times, and this is why it's been a rebuild for 5 years. They made the playoffs and won a playoff game. They didn't think they were in a rebuild anymore. They just said, oh, here we go. We got our franchise guy. We're moving forward. We're in the right step. And they tried to skip some parts of the rebuilding process. So had they not made the playoffs then and realized Jones wasn't their guy, they would be in a better spot by now versus what they did.
Yeah, making the playoffs set them back a lot. But the other thing that set them back is they didn't look at the 3 years prior of film. It's not like it was, oh, we just brought him in this year and we got to do something with him. They drafted him.
Yeah.
So, like, they had plenty of film. He had a good contract year, which, I mean, to be fair, that always hurts teams.
Can we stop looking at contract years? Like, if I'm evaluating a guy over 4 years, I would always, I mean, you can almost say, okay, let me take out their rookie year and let me take out their contract year. Yep. And let me see the other 2 years. What did he do for these 2 years? Yep. Oh, it was bad? Oh, okay. So stop. Just stop.
Well, and it's not like they didn't have Barkley also. Like, they mostly had that team.
Right.
Right? Like, different elements came and went, but they mostly had that team. Now, the offensive line got a little bit worse as it went, which is hilarious because he couldn't do anything but when the line was a little bit better.
Right.
So, yeah,
right.
I don't know why they paid him. I didn't know why they paid him when they did, but it gave everybody a benchmark of no matter how you play, you're getting 40 plus.
Yes. The rest of the quarterbacks loved it. Like, wait a minute, Daniel Jones got 40? Oh,
right?
Yeah. I'm about to get paid.
Exactly. This is the floor. Like, this is where negotiations start because I'm better than Daniel Jones. And we're going to go from there, which is why now you have $60 million quarterbacks, which is wild.
Yes.
Speaking of garbage teams in New York, the Jets exist as well.
I just root against them a lot, man. Sorry.
I mean, they just they're not a likable team. No. So it's I'm not sad to see them crash and burn, right? But at the same time, like, how is this going so bad? I mean, now there's talk about Rodgers potentially not wanting to come back. He disputed that on, the Pat McAfee show.
Yeah.
But that could just be lip service because it was a bad look, right? Who knows? But if you're Devontae Adams, man, you got to be mad. If you go from the Packers and then you go to the Raiders where they get rid of your guy, and then you then move to the Jets and your guy is like, just kidding, I don't want to play here anymore. You've just been like buried into bad teams. Although funny, man, that's got to be frustrating.
Yeah. But I mean, a part of it, like, I just don't feel bad for Adams because he didn't mind going to these teams that he went to.
Yep.
If I'm the Jets on the flip side of that, because I actually did a video for this on a friend's show, and yes, that is exactly why I root against it. I've never seen a situation where you mold everything around one person and somehow that person is trying to escape all the blame for what's going on. Offense is bad. Let's hire the defensive head coach. Let's keep around. What's up, Title? How you doing? Let's keep, your guy as offense coordinator, but we'll demote him, but he'll still be in the building because that's your best friend. We'll get the wide receiver you want. We'll get rid of the wide receiver you got mad at when you threw a bad pass and you said he ran the wrong route.
Right.
We've done everything that you want, and it's gotten worse and worse. And I did when I did the thing, I said, all right, you'd have to do a pros and cons list for bringing back Rodgers next year, right? The cons list is a mile long. The pros for bringing back Aaron Rodgers next year, I can't think of a single one. Like, this has been a dumpster fire.
Your pro is hope. It's not even a real pro. Your pro is like, I hope he can be good again, right? Which is essentially what the Browns are doing with Deshaun. Is they're just like, I hope he can play football again. But we haven't seen any evidence of either one of those guys being able to be not even elite, just play competently.
No. And then, see, you're pro. Like, I don't, and that's what I did. Exactly. When I did it for the show, I actually did this. I said, here's your pros list for bringing back Rodgers. Yeah.
And you worked all night on that.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to approach it from every angle. I wanted to be fair. But it's bad, and it centers on one person. And then to come out with the reports that he's playing through injuries, I'm like, stop doing the excuse. Okay, maybe he is, but it looks bad. Are you going to tell me in all these years y'all haven't had a competent anything else that you can throw out there with all the talent that you're assembling on on offense, like I just don't understand.
Yeah, no,
Everything
like
is great.
that's actually the craziest thing is that on paper that team should be good. Like that, like when you look at the roster, you're like, oh yeah, this team should ball out. They're a 3-win team? Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah. And even listen to the Jets guy. He's like, at this point, even the defense is playing terribly. He's like, you're not getting the same effort from a lot of people.
Well, you knew that was going to take a slide, though, right? Like you fire Saleh, which he's a defensive guy, right? And his defense has been money since he got there. So you get rid of him, you get the defensive coordinator splitting duties as a head coach, which he's clearly above his skis. He's making bad game time decisions, but he was thrust into this position not because he wanted it. You're now our guy, and it's like, all right, like you're not going to say no to that, but your defense will suffer for it because now you don't get to spend the time with it, and you put them in bad positions because you're not used to game management situations. So I mean, there's a lot to not like about what was going to happen to that defense anyway, and then the offense never takes the step forward.
Right.
So you get rid of Hackett, which was Rodgers' guy. You bring in, I forget who they elevated, but
but they didn't actually get rid of Hackett. They were like, you can stick around because Rodgers likes you, but don't do anything. Just go stand over there in the corner. But I don't think they honestly thought the defense would take the step back that it did. I think they thought we'll just be fine. And now they're like you said, it's like when I always talk about my Dame Lillard with the Bucks thing. All right, if you're going to sacrifice defense, the offense has to be much, much better.
Well, and then you can't fire your guy because the defense was bad. It's like you got rid of all the defense.
Right.
And similarly in this case, it's just like, what do you mean you didn't think the defense was going to get worse? You aren't coaching them the same. Like, the system is going to be a little bit different because now you have someone else calling the shots. Right. It just, of course, it's going to be not the same. So, and then at this point, you probably do have guys that maybe aren't putting their best effort out. They're a 3-win team that on offense is a disaster. So, I mean, I don't really fault the guys. Like they're probably mostly out there at this point, just like, hey, I'm putting out tape of what I can do for wherever I'm going next.
Yes. Well, yeah, like you said, to your point, they're sitting there thinking we were playing well. You fired our guy. And then you helped out the other side of the ball, and now they're still not doing well. So what's going on? So, and there's Brian. What's up? Brian was the guy that when our original host kind of got really busy work-wise, Brian stepped up to help make Oklahoma a memorable experience.
Nice.
But since then, he's been following me around and giving me heck on all sorts of social media. Like whenever I go to the bathroom, he still texts me, "Boomer." So yeah. But no, Brian's a good guy, man. Love him to death. That's the son. Picture of him and his son. They rushed the field.
Cool.
Oklahoma. Yeah.
Nice.
So, some good memories.
Yeah. And that really is the question, right? Is what is the next step here? If I had a big dumpster fire emoji, I would just put it on there with the Jets logo. Like that's kind of where they are. If you're a Jets fan, man, I don't know what to tell you. Like it's not going to get better next year, right? Yeah. Even if you bring Rodgers back, we haven't seen anything from him that says he's going to be that elite talent again. I mean, his last year in Green Bay wasn't great, right? He then tears the Achilles. He comes back this year, doesn't really do a lot of the preseason stuff, right? Because he's off in his dark rooms and doing whatever Rodgers does. He did play a little bit in the joint practices, but then absolutely nothing through preseason. Right. And then he wonders why timing isn't there. It's like, well, you don't work with anybody. What did you expect to happen?
Right. And then you only want your guys and you seem to blame everybody else. So you're really bad for morale too when you're out there. And it's like, this guy never thinks any of his passes are bad. You can just tell the look on his face. He's like, why didn't this guy catch it?
I know.
I'm like,
yeah.
And I think they're already tanking. So I don't know. But if you don't get that, because what you've already mentioned, with the Giants are up there and Tennessee. Well, no, Tennessee actually won a game.
Yeah, Tennessee did, but the Jags are there. The
The
Raiders.
Jags won't draft a quarterback, but if somebody really likes Ward or Sanders, they could go after him. The Raiders have to draft a quarterback.
Yep.
Tennessee might if they stay below them. I mean,
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting, but if they're in a spot where they can't get one of the top two, I mean, are you really going to reach for another guy? Are you going to just wait around 2 or 3, get the next guy? I mean, would take a rookie guy in there, but your team's getting older.
Do you think any of the quarterbacks in this class are ready to play day one anyway? Because I don't.
No.
I mean, like Ward.
Shedeur is probably the most day one ready, but he and Ward both have things that I would be like, I would rather you sit. So they both have a tendency to want to do a little hero ball at times. They both hold the ball a long time and take sacks that they shouldn't. Exactly. And on a team like this, that's going to get you in trouble.
Well, they get hurt, honestly. Because we've watched those guys take big hits in college. And, one thing about the pros, everybody's bigger and faster.
Yep.
And I mean, I think both of those guys need to sit a year. Now, the league doesn't really let that happen the way that it used to, but I think the way that they play and the holes that are in their games, they probably need that. If you're a first or second round pick, you're probably, a 1 or 2 overall, you're probably not getting that ability. That's actually probably the best thing about Ewers is he will wherever he lands, right? Because he's going to be a day 2 guy. So if he gets picked up late second, early third, he's probably going to a team where he can sit.
Right. Here's the other thing. If they are catering to Rodgers and he decides he does want to come back and they still draft that quarterback, you saw how his reaction to when Love got drafted. It's like, do we have to go through this again? Like, hey, kid, we want to sit down and have you learn, but the guy who you should be learning from doesn't like you. So good luck with that. So.
Yeah, well, there's always that too. And yes, we do need this win. So I hope the dumpster fire keeps burning. Yeah. There is no doubt. And yeah, you're right. This QB class isn't great. Your top 2 guys they're not really projects, but they're probably not ready day one. And then you have one guy that's a day 2 guy. And then everyone else is late round, right? Like they're probably a 4 or 5, right?
And you haven't even talked about Sanders with the Dion effect and how is that going to affect any team that he goes to as well. So not the coaching part of it. I mean, like the outside noise part of it. Is this the team? Because I know what he backtracked what he said about I only want him playing for certain teams, but that's still there. So if he goes to a team he doesn't, you know what I mean? If he doesn't get the tutelage right away, if he doesn't play well, whatever, you have to listen to all the outside noise part of it. So that's something you get from Sanders that you're not getting from the other guys. So you have to take that into effect also. So. Yeah,
well, and that's where the 2 New York teams, it feels like they deserve that.
Yeah.
Right? Because, I mean, they're noisy all the time anyway. So you might as well throw that chaos at them.
Yeah. Sanders seems like a Giants guy.
I don't think he ends up in either spot. Right?
No, I mean because of the spotlight part, not because of the play. I mean because of the spotlight part and I'll be under the bright lights, that part of it. No. The game part, no.
I agree with that. It's just because of that Dion effect that you were talking about. He's not going to want him to play anywhere cold.
Right.
So both the New York teams aren't going to be real options there, right?
I could see Sanders in Vegas. The one quote that you have to really, really look at is that Brian saying Ewers will probably be a good QB because Brian is an Oklahoma guy. So for him to say that about a Texas guy, like I know he had to think about that for a good 20 minutes before he typed it out. So he meant that.
the thing is Ewers is a really good quarterback. The problem is he can't stay healthy. Mm-hmm. And if you can't stay healthy in college, the odds aren't great going to the league, right? Yeah. Like if you're taking big hits and getting hurt in college, it's hard to believe that you're just miraculously not going to get beat up in the league. So as much as I agree he could be a great quarterback, I feel like he is on that same Tua type of thing where he's going to end up on a team, of course. And you're going to hope every year that he can play all the games.
Yeah.
And then he's probably going to have that one breakout year where he does, probably a contract year, just to hose a team.
Wow.
And then, I mean, it seems to be how it works, right?
Yes. I mean, Tua
look at
had
Dak.
one complete season. He got paid, and then
I mean, Dak has his best year ever last year. Where's he? Oh yeah. He's not even playing. Cool.
Yes. He looked out at that team and said, "Yeah, my hamstring hurts.
Right?
Like, I'm good."
Yeah. Well, so intangibles only matter if you can stay on the field, though.
Yeah.
So that is
and that second part, man, you don't see as much development. I mean, like half your teams are just terrible at developing quarterbacks, or they mishandle the situation. Like no matter what side of it you're on, the Anthony Richards situation, the Bryce Young situations, like these are not situations that you could say the team was doing things in the right way, So no,
well,
I don't trust the teams that he goes to.
That's something I've said for a long time now is, you don't really have a quarterback issue in the league. You have a player development issue, right? And a lot of that is because these guys are required to play day one, right? They don't get to sit and catch up to the speed of the game and learn. And, it's one of those when they were in college, right? You're going up against 3 to 5 NFL level guys. You go to the league, it's 53 All-Americans.
Yep.
And so, I mean, that worst guy is as good as some of these teams' best guy ever. Right. So, I feel like, that Brady statement where they're like, oh yeah, they dumbed down the game. He's not wrong. Right.
No.
You're ending up with a lot of quarterbacks that are using their legs instead of their arm because they don't get that time, that grace to like get up to the speed of the game. They have to go play hero ball day one behind a bad offensive line, usually on a horrible team.
Yeah. You look at Anthony Richardson, like in particular, he was a developmental quarterback when they drafted him, right? There was nothing in college that made you think he was polished. And they still said, we're just going to toss him out there year one. That was supposed to go well. Like, I don't get that situation at all. I try not to comment as much on the Bryce Young one because obviously I'm biased.
Well, and he did, like Rob's right. Like he got shoved into a terrible situation, bad offensive line, no weapons, a chaotic owner, a new coach every 6 weeks. I mean, like there was no success going to happen there. So I mean, I feel bad for him.
Has he been there 2 years and had 3 head coaches, like the coach, the interim, and then the new one for the next year?
Yes. Yeah. And what's crazy is in the last 3 years, they've had 6 coaches.
I mean, yeah. I said, I'm biased, so I try not to comment on that situation. But I think any outsider can see, it's just terrible. So, but there's a lot of situations they're not doing I think CJ Stroud may be one of your few that just kind of got into a great situation to start, but even his year 2 is terrible. So.
Yeah. No, I mean
nobody did, Brian. Yeah, nobody did, and that was the problem. We all knew he wasn't. They drafted him as a developmental guy, and then tried to play him year 1.
So they didn't though. This is where I laugh at pro days, right? Is he was going to be a mid first rounder until his pro day where he lit it up, right? And he threw absolute bombs. The problem with that is it's a pro day. How much defense happens in a pro day? Oh, there isn't any.
Right.
I would hope that you can make a connection with no defense.
Right.
So, and besides, he threw bombs, which he can do. You know what he can't complete is a mid to short pass.
Yeah.
What is 99% of your throws in the NFL? They're not home run balls.
Yeah.
So, no, I mean, I don't know why scouts moved him so far up the board, and then ultimately, he got picked at 4?
Yeah.
So
that was awful.
Yeah, I mean, it just didn't make sense. I didn't get it at the time, but I thought he was actually going to be able to fall all the way to the Seahawks because they were kind of a mid first round pick, and I was just like, oh, okay, like he might actually fall to us. That could be kind of cool because he'd get a weight. Right? Like he'd get to sit behind Geno. And I thought that was actually going to be a pretty good situation for him. And then he goes where he does. And you're just like, well, That's going to hurt his career.
Yeah, basically.
So another dysfunctional team. This is just a dysfunctional week because we're at the time of the year where teams start to separate a little bit. And Jerry Jones comes out and says Mike McCarthy contract extension is not out of the question. And so the question here is that just lip service? Because if you say that it's not, you basically should just fire him at that point. Is this just him being like, hey, we're using you the rest of the year. I'm going to say this because if I don't, like, it from the outside perspective, it forces your hand to just fire him now. So otherwise you have a lame duck, coach in there and nobody's going to listen to you. So it makes you wonder, is this just Jerry talking because it makes shows like this have to talk about the Cowboys?
Yes. Absolutely. It's like the people that said, when he traded for Mingo at the deadline, it was so to give them something to talk about other than how terrible the team was. Jerry's just out there just saying whatever, because you're talking about giving an extension to the guy who should not have been brought back this year would be amazing. I mean, if you're just trying to tell us that you're being blackmailed, just do the blink twice thing. You don't have to say stuff like this. If you're being kidnapped, if somebody in your family is under duress, like there's other ways
behind the back. Like,
yes, I feel like he's just trying to send out a cry for help. Other than because this, I don't see. What is it that he's seeing? Like, name me one good thing. What? Because they beat the Commanders. I mean,
yeah, but the Commanders are sliding. So
yeah,
it's. Yeah, and I agree. It's got to be lip service because if they do extend him, which would be hilarious, and I'm here for it. I hope they do. That'd be great. The league is better when the Cowboys are bad because it's funny every time. But at the same time, if he really is trying to win a ring, the way this team is constructed, I don't know what he's thinking. I mean, because at this point, you're absolutely going to lose Micah Parsons because they don't have any cap space and they haven't done anything to rectify that situation.
Right. So the strength of your defense would be gone, and it hasn't been a strength this year. I mean, you're getting blown out at home, and I know injuries have played a part later on, but even in the beginning and going back to the playoff game, defense hasn't been playing well. You're going to lose that. How well does Dak come back from injury? You have no running game, no wide receiver depth, so you better encase CeeDee Lamb in bubble wrap and hope nothing ever happens. Because if he decides, and he's already frustrated, he's looking back at that contract like I could have just got this from somewhere else, and moved on. Yeah, the team is not set up for anything,
No.
So if you're Mike McCarthy, what are you doing? Coming back just so you can be the scapegoat and get fired in a year or two? Is that the whole point of that?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's all it would be, right? Because at this point, you're going to have to start ripping this thing down because you got a couple other contracts that you're not going to be able to pay, or maybe you don't even want to pay. So you're essentially going to be rebuilding with Dak and CeeDee Lamb. There's a fly that keeps trying to fly.
I was like, I thought you were trying to shoo away Mike McCarthy.
I mean, no, there's a fly that keeps trying to get into my eyeball.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Here's the thing: if you decide to bring back your coach and everyone in the league starts cheering, there's a sign it might not be the best choice. Just saying. Yeah.
That being said, if they move on from him, it's not like this is his last stop. He'll absolutely get another shot somewhere, right? He had a lot of winning seasons in Green Bay, got a ring there. He goes to the Cowboys, has 3 12-5 years in a row. There's a lot of teams that can only dream about a 12-5 record.
True that.
So
True that.
It's maybe he does have dirt on Jerry Jones.
That's why I said it.
There's something.
That's why I said it. And this is a cry for help from Jerry. He's just trying to tell you guys I'm being blackmailed. I get it.
It's that exact thing, which is how I think Eberflus still has a job.
Wow.
Right?
I didn't think it. I knew last year you were talking about how bad it is, but then you watch the handling of the team and everyone getting fired around him. Like
twice, everyone getting fired twice. Like, how do you survive 2 full-on staff firings and you still have your job? There's some pictures, probably video of some stuff.
Yeah, there has to be at this point.
Like, if we were as bad at our job as what we watch the Bears do, right? Because it's not like the roster's terrible. Right. So if we did our jobs as bad as that and everyone around us, our team, everybody gets fired, somehow we stay there. You're telling me that there's not something weird going on? Because
basically,
like, you're getting
hey, you guys are terrible. Everybody's terrible except for you, Bo. Being in charge, you're doing a great job, buddy. You can keep your job.
Right? That even sounds dumb.
I know.
They're like, you know what? You are managing this team and your team is terrible.
Yes.
So we're going to fire all of them, bring in a new team. You know what? That team is terrible also.
Yes.
There's not a common denominator here.
I can't think of anything. You know
what? Let's fire them again. It's got to be them a third time. Yeah. No, it's crazy. It's crazy. So you know what? It's actually, I wasn't going to talk about it today, but it's a good thing. I actually think the way that the year has gone now, that he probably doesn't win Rookie of the Year. I would bet Bo Nix does.
Yeah. He had a good lead, so it's going to depend on how he finished. But that's who I would say if Daniels
they're
doesn't get it.
They're on a 3-game skid right now, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, offensive Rookie of the Year. Yeah, I think it's Nix.
So do you know? Right before the season started, Raj said Bo Nix would be the best quarterback in this class.
Yeah, he did. He should have thrown some money on that.
He should have. Like, the fact that this thing is about to get, like this, and that he's looking this good, it is crazy.
Nobody wants to hear that nonsense when.
Yeah, but for us, we have to give him the duck because we don't want to talk about his Auburn days. So we're with the duck days.
Yeah, no, go Huskies.
Brian, if you said it, I need to see the video because Rogers is on video.
Oh, is there film?
There's film. It's on film. So yes.
If you know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Man. So I did want to hit a college topic before we do our power rankings real quick, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but Shedeur shoves a ref and they're not going to do anything about it. No suspensions, nothing like that, which is interesting because in college, a lot of times if you push a ref like that, you're suspended. Right. Because they don't have fines to levy or anything like that. So I thought it was interesting that they didn't. At the same time, the way that they were not calling dirty shots on Shedeur.
Right. Kind of led up to that incident.
It did. And so it makes you wonder, like, did they go back and look at it and be like, yeah, you guys are kind of calling the game like trash right now? I mean, because he took some low hits.
Yeah.
Right. Like
the one that you see in the video of a lot of times gets you, you're done in the NFL. You do something like that to a quarterback. So
you're leaving the field right then and maybe missing some games.
Yep. And nobody on your team has got your back. They're like, bro, come on. You knew. So that was a dirty game. So yeah, I get it's Deion's son, but you have to look at what and there is still no excuse to push an official, but you definitely tell he was caught up in the emotion of that. And I'll be honest, you take a couple shots at my legs like that. I remember there were wide receivers that used to say stuff like, man, just go high on me and I'll pay your, Larry Fitzgerald said that one time. I'll pay the fine, if you go high on me and get hit, but don't take my legs out. And
that's the difference between potentially missing the rest of the game and missing the second half of your career.
Yes.
So, it's I don't know. Yeah. I just thought it was unique because generally that works out to be an automatic suspension kind of thing.
Right.
And it wasn't, But when you watched the rest of the game, you're like, yeah, he was getting dirty shots all day.
Right. Right. It's interesting that they're not handling that part of it either, though. You know, you can't come out, suspend him, and not like address that. Oh yeah, guess what? We should also been on that. So it's kind of like we're not going to. It's kind of like your original point. We're not going to suspend you because we also realized we screwed you over for the whole game. So if we can make this whole thing go away, that would be good.
I think that's the thing is they're just trying to brush it under the rug. They're not going to suspend him. They're not going to suspend like 4 different guys that should have been on Kansas, right? Because I mean, like one of those was straight up just missing the knee with his helmet, right? Like straight dove into his knee. Yeah. So I mean, it's
with no one else around, there was no like, oh, this guy tripped me or I was going, you know, no, I straight up went low.
For no reason. Yeah.
Yep. And like you said, those can be career enders, man. You know, even as young as he is, you know, you take a wrong hit there, that's it for you. So
no question. No question. And of course, to wrap up the show, we got to do the power rankings. And if it loads, you know, it's been
a weird day. Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna read this to you real quick. Then while it's loading, Anthony Richardson's yardage in the first 4 games last year: 223, 56, 298. So, like, just to address the, you know, he started out hot last year. I think our perception of it, and those aren't his running totals; those are just his passing totals. But I don't think he started out as well as what people thought before he got hurt last year.
Oh, Richardson.
I think it was just Richardson.
Yeah.
So we had a comment up there about, hey, he started out hot before he got injured last year. He wasn't as hot as what we actually think. So.
Yeah, no, he played decent, right? But it's not like the team is great.
Right.
And then he got hurt. He hasn't been quite the same coming back. But it's not like it's a great team. Yeah. So, you know, he's a developmental guy.
Just another point towards he should have sat the first year. I mean, that's
well, and he could have. I think that's the worst part is they had the veteran on the roster.
Yeah.
And instead you go and stunt the growth of a guy because if you have a veteran and then you bring him in and say you have to sit him back down, it's not the end of the world, right?
Right.
But if you have the rookie and you start him and then you sit him, that is a huge confidence crusher. So even if there was a lot of potential there, you sit the guy down, that's hard to overcome because they come in going, oh, I'm that guy. I walked in, I got the job, all of this. And then you're just like, you know, it turns out you're kind of terrible once you sit down. That's tough to come back from. Whereas if you are learning behind a guy, you get your shot.
Yeah.
And then say you end up getting sat down again. You're just like, okay, well, you know, I wasn't quite ready, I guess. You know, like mentally, it's just a different spot, even though the outcome's the same. Right. And that can really stunt the growth of a quarterback moving forward. So I never like it when there's a developmental guy that gets the week 1 start, especially when you have the veteran in the room.
Yeah. They could have, like I said, they could have handled that situation so much better.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
They decided not to. You know, hope he's good.
So a little bit of movement, mostly towards the bottom. So Green Bay gets onto my list. The Texans end up falling off. I still have Lions 1. I got Bills 2. Eagles, they continue to get better as this year has gone. KC, I get they're a 1-loss team. But they have not played great football. They played great defense. They've had moments of offense. They've had a couple of games where referees helped them out or, you know, a lucky blocked kick. I mean, like they've had some lucky elements and, you know, championship teams find ways to win. So I'm not discounting that, but they're also not the best team in the league.
Yeah. They're just the scariest team because you know what happens come playoffs is like Mahomes finds a way. That's the thing. But no, I think for the power rankings during the year, and Chiefs fans shouldn't really care. I mean, last year you were the 3rd seed.
Yep. And
we're just fine. So I don't think Chiefs fans care. But no, I like the rankings. I was shaking my head at the Texans part. They've just been awful, man. CJ Stroud has hit a wall and it's just been bad. I mean, they're gonna host a first round game because the rest of the division is so bad.
Yes.
But you know, I mean, I'd have to look at how it shakes out, but what if you're like the Ravens go to the Texans for the first round. I mean, do you not just feel bad for them at that point? Which, by the way, the Ravens, you feel like, hey, giving Derrick Henry 20 carries a game, even against a decent run defense, is, hey, maybe that's a thing.
Who knew? It's almost like we say it every week.
Yes. Yes. I went back and looked at it because I remember when you mentioned that at the beginning of the year, and it's like, you go look at what they're like 4 losses. His carries are like 13, 15, 13, and 11.
Yeah.
I'm like, But it's like nobody can figure this out. It drives me crazy. And that's why you're at 5.
Like, are they not watching film? Like, I don't understand.
Yes. And not watching film of the guy you went to go get. Like, you specifically brought this massive human being in. It's like they're looking on the bench and they don't see him sitting higher than everyone else. You know? Yeah.
Well, and
like, where's Derrick?
Like a play design, right? You're doing this.
Yes. You know?
Like, let that man run. Yeah, no, it's wild. And then every time he has 20 or more carries, not only do they win, but he puts up almost 200 yards. Like, I don't where's the disconnect here?
Yeah. I honestly think they see I think they see one run in the first, quarter, second quarter. Oh, Henry gets stuffed to the line, 1 carry, 0, and they're like, oh, you have to get away from the running game. Like, what?
Exactly. And you know what? If your film crew is this bad, this is my official job application for the Ravens. Like, let's go. Yeah, no, it's crazy to me, and yes, I agree. They are the worst 1-loss team I've seen. They're not great. Now, that being said, the last couple of weeks they have gotten better on offense. I think Mahomes has like 100 passer rating over the last 2 or 3 games. So I mean, it's definitely turned around from where it started. I think his first 6 games he had more interceptions than touchdowns. He's corrected that. So, I mean, he's coming into playing good football again at the right time. We're headed down the stretch.
Right. Which is kind of what you expect from him. Yeah.
These teams that he's going to start going up against with good defenses and good offenses, I think that'll ultimately keep them from a 3-peat. Do they get into the playoffs? Of course. Like, but are they going to do much there? I think they're kind of a, win of 1 game and then that's it, right? Like, they don't seem like the team that's going to be able to beat 4 quality teams. Now they're probably going to have the number 1 seed, so maybe they get that first round bye. But even 3, like, I don't see them beating 3 teams that are a well balanced team.
Right. So is your Super Bowl winning coming from top 2, top 4, or top 6? I know you're going with the Lions right on one side of it, right?
Yeah, so I still like the Ravens-Lions.
Okay.
Like, I'm still leaning that way. I don't think KC gets there. The Eagles are a little bit of a question mark because they're winning a lot of games in spite of their head coach.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not really that they were – like, it's not like it was great game management situations. Like, they overcame not hitting on 3 fourth down conversion, one of them from like 4 yards out. So I mean, they've had a lot of game management issues that they've randomly overcome, mostly because Saquon is balling out.
Right.
And their
I think Saquon, defense has played better. Saquon's balling out, and I think Hurts has stopped turning the ball over as much. And those are kind of your in-game keys. But I don't think there's a single Eagles fan out there who like talks great about Sirianni. Like, he's going to win us a game. Is he really? No, probably not. We're just hoping he doesn't lose it for us. So that's why I'm always wary of the Eagles for sure.
Yeah. Well, and the other one that on my list here is I know I'm going to get some hate because they're like, well, the Steelers beat the Ravens. It's like, yeah, that's fine. It's a divisional game. So those can always kind of go either way. And there's no one on the planet that can convince me the Steelers are a more complete team than the Ravens.
Yeah.
Like, they're just not. I mean, they're way better than I thought they would be, but they're not better than the Ravens despite beating them. Because
was it like 11 carries in that game? Yeah. Was it 11 carries or 30? That was one of the either 11 or 13 carry games for.
Yeah. He had, I believe he had 11. And then Tucker also missed 2 very makeable kicks.
Yeah.
Because the Steelers kicked
13
field goals,
carries. Yeah.
right? They kicked 6 field goals. It's not like
Yeah.
it's not like they were just lighting the scoreboard up. They couldn't score. So, I mean, that game was more given away by the Ravens than anything else.
Yeah.
But
I've long questioned, and I like Mike Tomlin, so it always pains me to say this, but I've long questioned how they can survive long term with the offense the way it is.
well,
So
you won't.
I think he might get, huh?
You won't win in the playoffs that way.
Yeah,
like you'll get there,
so,
but you won't win once you get there.
You put too much pressure on your defense play to play.
Yeah, well, it's exactly the recipe that KC has. Right? Is the defense is playing great. The offense comes up short.
Yeah.
That'll win you games during the season. It's tough to go on a 3 or 4 game run with no offense.
Yeah.
Now, the offense has been better with Russ in there, but it's also been, a lot of field goals. Like they still really struggle to punch it in the end zone. Yeah. And once you're in the playoffs, you got to score touchdowns, not field goals.
Yeah. And well, that's the thing when you get a guy who's a great deep ball thrower, you get within the 20 and all of a sudden like that part is taken away and it's like, oh, we can't just hit home runs from here all the time. And that's the problem. They sell out on the run on you.
They just need to do a couple of holding calls to lengthen the field back out.
I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. We were on our show last night and we were talking about this because that's what Jalen Milroe is, a great deep ball thrower. And I said, last year we hit that 4th and 31 to beat Auburn. Had that been a 4th and 5, we wouldn't have hit it. But from 31 yards out, Milroe's got an arm. From 5 yards out, we'd have been cooked. So it's just weird. I would rather have Buffalo Lions, to be honest, than Eagles.
The thing is I think it would be cool to see, but Buffalo playing KC in the playoffs, I don't know what it is. They're in their head, like they cannot figure that game out.
It's
and
terrible.
Unfortunately for them, they'll meet them in the playoffs. I wouldn't put my money on the Bills.
No.
I mean,
I would be rooting for them.
Oh, no question. No question. I mean, I'm going to be rooting for whoever takes down the 3-peat.
I agree.
I
agree. But you look at that record, Buffalo beats them in the regular season and never in the playoffs. It's like the most uncanny thing I've ever seen. So you give up a field goal try with 13 seconds left in a game, that team just has your number. Like that's just it for you.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the thing is as much as I would like Buffalo to get by them, I would not put money on it. I'd keep that money in my pocket, maybe order a pizza with it, like something, but it surely isn't to pick them to win in the playoffs against KC.
Agreed.
Now, do I want them to win? 100% I do. But that being said, Bills versus Ravens heads up, say that's the championship game. I think the Ravens win that game.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bills, although playing better than I thought they were going to play, I don't know that they can take down the Ravens if the Ravens come in with a smart game plan. If the Ravens decide not to run the ball, Bills win.
Right. But they did in the first matchup. They said, all right, we're feeding Henry. So, they play. And I'm not saying every time they give him 20 carries, they're going to win. But they're not going to lose that often either. At least they're staying true to themselves. Yeah.
I mean, think about, the guy that always comes to mind when it comes to Derrick Henry is Adrian Peterson. Right. And not because they're similar runners, because they're not. But they're similar in the way of their first 10 carries don't generally get a lot, right? But it's them wearing that defense down. And then it's their next 15 carries that all of a sudden start going big because people are like, oh, I'm tired of hitting this monster. So when you're like, oh yeah, these 10 carries weren't great. It's like, yeah, they never are. Like he's a guy that has to wear the team down.
The defense on, yeah.
So if you are like, well, we're giving up after 10, it's like, okay, well, why did you even go get this guy?
Yeah. That was the most frustrating thing about it to me. Oh, his yards per carry aren't great. That's fine, but it's fourth quarter. It's cold. You're kind of tired of hitting this dude, and all of a sudden he looks like as fresh as anything. And all of a sudden that 2-3 yard carry he got earlier is now 5 or 6 because the guy's a little slower getting over there because he's tired. And which, by the way, is hilarious that the Chargers guy wanted to talk trash after the game. Oh, it wasn't that bad to me. I'm like, we watched the clips of him tossing your guys around. Like, don't tell me that. And by the way, people talk trash after losses anyway. Like, come on, man. You had your shot, you didn't do it. Like, what is that? I wish that's how it worked. Yeah, I know we lost by however much, but those guys suck.
We may have lost the game, but I'm winning at trash. Here we go.
Yes, yeah, like the George Pickens of the world. Like, do it on the field, man.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's I don't know. I just some of these teams that I had on there before, like the Commanders, right? They obviously couldn't stay on there. They have the same record as, say, the Broncos, but the Broncos are on a 2 or 3 game winning streak, and the Commanders are on a 3 game losing streak.
Yeah. So one team's getting better, the other team's getting worse.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. So it's some of those things are gonna be like, oh, how come you don't have them? It's like, you guys watch football, right? Like,
yeah. Remember when we started doing power rankings, like in the last year, we started doing that. Like, who's actually playing better now, not just by your record, Exactly. Like, look at how Philly ended the year last year and how they started the year last year. Yep. You this is how it actually works. So, I read somebody said
Philly was my pick for the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah. And then somewhere around game, 9 or 10, they decided, you know what? This playoff thing's overrated.
That's right. The Cowboys keep talking about how good Cabo is.
Yes. So, but see, they're just a hard team to figure out right now.
So, Rob, no. It is kind of wild, though. I will say this. There's actually some lists out there that have the Seahawks in the top 10, which is wild to me. Now, I'm a Hawks fan, but there's no scenario that they should be in the top 10 right now. Like top 13, if we're saying they're 13th, maybe. But I mean, there's teams that are just playing better than them. So I understand they're winning the division and they beat the Broncos and whatever, but they beat the Broncos when they weren't playing well. The Broncos have continued to get better. The Seahawks, the defense the last 2 weeks has played significantly better than it was. But I don't believe that offensive line can hold up against the defense of half of this list, right? Like Geno gets murdered by half of these defenses. So as much as I'd like to put them on the top 10, I can't.
Would you feel confident right now if Cabo is nice, though? Of course, win.
It is. Yeah, I mean, it's probably 83 there today.
Yeah, there you go.
It'd be amazing.
If Green Bay was going to Seattle for a playoff game right now, how confident would you feel?
We're going to get to see that. We play them in 3 weeks.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
But we play them here. And we'll see, man. I actually think that will be a good game. As long as the defense for the Hawks is playing the way it is now. So that being said, we got to get you out of here so you can do the work thing. Let everybody know where they can find you.
See the handle at Raj_Herb. That's on our Twitter, and Herb and Raj podcast. You can search that out on YouTube. Like, subscribe, check out all our videos.
Right on. Of course, if you are watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. Helps us bring our content to you. If you were watching on Roku TV, stay tuned for the next hour. Enjoy your Turkey Day. We'll see you all next week.
In Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows, giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming